The air inside Keth Station smelled like rust and desperation. Daewon pulled his jacket tighter as he walked through the crowded corridors. The station hung in the darkness of space, far from any civilized world. Here, the laws meant nothing. Here, anything could be bought or sold. He was supposed to pick up fuel cells and leave. Simple job. Easy money. But Keth Station had a way of complicating things. The market sector sprawled before him like a metal maze. Vendors shouted in dozens of languages. Holographic signs flickered overhead, advertising weapons, ship parts, and things Daewon tried not to think about. He kept his head down and his hand near his sidearm. Humans were still new to this part of space, and not everyone was friendly. A crowd gathered ahead. Daewon tried to walk past, but something made him stop. Maybe it was the cruel laughter. Maybe it was the sound of chains rattling against metal. He pushed through the crowd to see what was happening. His stomach turned. A platform stood in the center of the market. On it, alien beings stood in chains. Some looked defeated, their eyes empty. Others struggled against their bonds. Guards with shock sticks kept them in line. An auctioneer shouted prices in Galactic Common, his voice echoing through the market. Slavery. Daewon had heard it still existed out here, but seeing it was different. Earth had fought wars to end this kind of thing. His hands clenched into fists. Then he saw her. She stood taller than the others, maybe 7 feet. Her skin was silver like polished metal, catching the station's harsh lights. Her eyes glowed violet, fierce and unbroken. Unlike the others, she didn't bow her head. She stared straight ahead, her jaw set in defiance. The chains on her wrists and ankles were thicker than the others. The guards gave her extra space, their shock sticks ready. Daewon recognized fear when he saw it. They were afraid of her. Next up, we have something special, the auctioneer announced. A Valkyrie warrior. Yes, you heard right. One of the famous Valkyrie, straight from the Conquest Wars. Strong, trained, and completely under control. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew the stories. The Valkyrie were legendary warriors. Their entire civilization had been crushed by the Draxian Empire decades ago. Most were dead. The survivors were scattered across the galaxy, hunted and enslaved. Starting bid 5,000 credits. A Draxian merchant raised his hand. He wore expensive robes and had the confident air of someone used to getting what he wanted. 5,000, 6,000, called another voice. The woman on the platform didn't react. Her eyes stayed fixed on the far wall, but Daewon could see the tension in her shoulders. She was waiting for something. A chance, maybe. An opening. One of the guards said something in a harsh language and jabbed her with his shock stick. Her body went rigid as electricity coursed through her. She didn't scream. Didn't make a sound. When it stopped, she straightened again, still defiant. The crowd laughed. Something hot and angry ignited in Daewon's chest. He thought about Earth, about humanity's own history, about all the times people had been treated like objects instead of beings. His grandmother had told him stories about the old days, before humanity joined the galactic community. About fighting for dignity, about refusing to bow. He checked his credit account. The numbers made him wince. He'd been saving for months to upgrade his ship's engines. This would wipe him out completely. Going once at 6,000, 10,000, Daewon called out. The crowd went quiet. Heads turned. The auctioneer looked surprised, then greedy. 10,000 from the human. Do I hear 11? The Draxian merchant scowled at Daewon. 11,000, Daewon's heart pounded. He was already in too deep. 15,000. Gasps and whispers. The Draxian's face darkened. He studied Daewon for a long moment, calculating whether a human would really spend that much. Finally, he waved his hand dismissively and walked away. Sold to the human for 15,000 credits. Daewon felt sick. What had he just done? He couldn't afford this. He didn't even know what he planned to do with a Valkyrie warrior, but as the guards started to pull her off the platform, she turned her head and looked directly at him. Those violet eyes met his. For a moment, the market faded away. He saw pain in those eyes, rage, but also something else. A question, maybe, or a challenge. He pushed through the crowd to the payment station. The transaction was quick and cold. Credits transferred. Papers signed. The guards brought the woman over, still in chains. She's all yours, one guard said in broken Galactic Common. Good luck. No one's ever tamed a Valkyrie. Most die fighting before they accept a master. I'm not looking for a slave, Daewon said. The guards laughed and walked away. Daewon stood alone with the woman. Up close, she was even more imposing. Scars covered her arms and shoulders, old wounds from battles he couldn't imagine. She stared down at him, her expression unreadable. "I'm Day One," he said. He pulled out the digital key the guards had given him. "I'm going to unlock these chains. When I do, you're free to go wherever you want." She didn't respond. Her eyes narrowed slightly, suspicious. He pressed the key to her wrist shackles. They clicked open and fell to the ground with a heavy thud. Then the ankle chains, finally, the collar around her neck. She stood there, rubbing her wrists, staring at him like he was speaking a language she didn't understand. "You're free," Daewon repeated. "I don't know where you want to go, but I can probably help you get there. Or you can just leave. Whatever you want." She remained silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice deep and accented. "Why? Why what? Why free me? You paid." "I am yours by station law," Daewon shook his head. "Nobody should own another person. I couldn't leave you there." Something changed in her expression. Her eyes widened slightly. Then, before Daewon could react, she dropped to one knee, her fist pressed against her chest in what looked like a salute. "I am Rena of the Valkyrie," she said formally. "You have freed me when you had no obligation. By the old laws of my people, I owe you a life debt. I swear by my honor and the memory of my fallen world that I will guard your life with my own until this debt is paid." "Wait. What? No, you don't have to." "The oath is sworn," she said firmly. "It cannot be taken back." Daewon looked around nervously. People were watching them, some with curiosity, others with greed. He'd just made himself a target by showing he had credits to burn. And now he had a 7-foot alien warrior who thought she owed him her life. "Okay," he said slowly. "We need to get out of here. My ship's in docking bay 12. "Can you walk?" Rena stood, towering over him. "I can fight. Let's hope we don't have to." They started walking toward the docking bays. Daewon felt eyes following them every step of the way. Keth Station was dangerous on a good day. Now he'd painted a target on his back. But when he glanced at Rena, saw the way she held her head high for the first time since he'd seen her, he thought maybe he'd made the right choice after all, even if it cost him everything. The Hanil runner wasn't much to look at. Daewon's cargo ship had seen better days, with patches on the hull and engines that sometimes made concerning noises. But it was home, and right now it was their ticket out of Keth Station. Rena followed him through the narrow corridors, her head nearly touching the ceiling. She moved silently despite her size, like a predator. Daewon tried not to think about what those movements meant. How many battles had she fought? How many enemies had she faced? "This is the main cabin," he said, gesturing around the small living space. "Bunk rooms through there. Kitchen's barely big enough for one person, but we'll manage. Bathrooms, oh, where do you sleep?"
Rena interrupted. "The bunk room."
"There are 2 beds. Then I will sleep outside your door." Daewon stopped. "What? No, you take one of the beds. I'm not making you sleep on the floor." Rena's expression hardened. "My oath requires that I protect you. I cannot do that if I am behind a closed door. Rena, I freed you so you wouldn't have to follow orders anymore. This is not an order I follow. This is an oath I choose to keep." They stared at each other. Daewon realized arguing was pointless. He'd have to pick his battles. "Fine. But you're using a blanket at least." He showed her the basics of the ship, then retreated to the cockpit to begin departure procedures. Through the window, he could see Keth Station's twisted metal structures. The sooner they left, the better. Rena appeared in the doorway. "We are being followed." Daewon's hands froze over the controls. "How do you know?" 3 males, Draxian. They have been watching since we left the market. They keep their distance, but they follow." He pulled up the station's security feed on his screen. She was right. 3 figures in dark clothes stayed about 50 meters behind them. "The slavers." "Yes, they want me back." "Well, they can't have you." Daewon accelerated the departure sequence. "Sit down and strap in. We're leaving now." Rena didn't sit. She stood behind his chair, her hand resting on the back of his seat. He could feel the tension radiating from her. The Hunnel runner detached from the docking port. Daewon guided the ship away from the station, pushing the engines as hard as he dared. The stars stretched before them. Freedom. For 3 days, nothing happened. Daewon tried to relax, but Rena made it difficult. She barely slept. She watched the sensors constantly. She positioned herself between Daewon and every door. "You need to rest," he told her on the second day. "I am rested enough." When did you last sleep for more than an hour? She didn't answer. Day One sighed. He pulled out 2 ration packs and heated them up. Basic stuff, protein paste and grain bars. Not exactly gourmet, but filling. He handed one to Rena. She ate mechanically, her eyes never leaving the corridor. Tell me about your people, Day One said. Rena paused, her expression flickering. Why? Because I want to know. Because you're here and I barely know anything about you. She was quiet for so long that Day One thought she wouldn't answer. Then she spoke, her voice softer than before. The Valkyrie were warriors. We lived on Valkyrus Prime, a world of red mountains and silver seas. We believed in honor above all things, in strength and courage, in protecting the weak. Her jaw tightened. The Draxian Empire came 30 years ago. They wanted our world for its resources. We fought. For 5 years we fought. What happened? We lost. The Draxians were too many. They destroyed our cities, killed our children. Those who survived were enslaved. She looked down at her hands. I was a shield sister, an elite guardian. I swore to protect my people. I failed. That wasn't your fault, wasn't it? I survived. Most did not. Day One didn't know what to say. The pain in her voice was raw, decades old but still fresh. I'm sorry. Rena looked at him surprised. Why do you apologize? You were not there. Because nobody should lose everything like that. Because it's wrong. She studied him with those intense violet eyes. Humans are strange. I have heard stories about your kind. You are weak compared to most species. Small, fragile. Yet you refuse to accept your place. What place? At the bottom. In the galactic order, humans should be servants or food. But you fight. You build. You make alliances with anyone who will listen. Other species call you stubborn. Day One smiled despite himself. Yeah, we get that a lot. It is not an insult. Stubbornness is strength. They talked late into the night. Rena told him about Valkyrie customs, their warrior codes, the festivals they once celebrated. Day One told her about Earth, about humanity's struggles to join the galactic community, about the colonies spreading across the stars. For the first time since leaving Keth Station, Rena seemed to relax. Not much, but enough that her shoulders lowered slightly. On the 3rd day, the alarm screamed. Day One bolted to the cockpit. 3 ships appeared on the scanner, closing fast. Sleek Draxian fighters built for speed and violence. We're being hailed, he said. A face appeared on the screen. Draxian with the facial ridges and cold eyes typical of their kind. Human vessel, you are carrying stolen property. Return the Valkyrie and you may leave unharmed. She's not property, Day One said. And she's not going anywhere. Then you will die. The screen went black. The fighters opened fire. Day One threw the ship into evasive maneuvers. Energy bolts streaked past the hull. The Hunnel runner shuddered with each near miss. I can't outrun them. The ship's not built for combat. Then we fight another way. Rena was already moving, heading toward the airlock. What are you doing? Ending this. Before Day One could stop her, she sealed herself in the airlock. Through the internal camera, he watched in horror as she manually opened the outer door. The vacuum of space pulled at her, but she held on, timing her moment. One of the fighters passed close, probably planning to disable the Hunnel runner's engines. Rena jumped. She sailed through space, her silver skin catching the starlight. Her hand caught the fighter's hull. She pulled herself along it, moving toward the cockpit with impossible precision. She's insane, Day One whispered, but he couldn't look away. Rena ripped open an access panel with her bare hands. Sparks exploded into space. The fighter spun out of control as its systems failed. She pushed off, aiming for the 2nd ship. The remaining fighters broke formation, confused. Their targeting systems couldn't track something as small as a person in space. Rena used their confusion, boarding the 2nd fighter and tearing through its hull like paper. The 3rd fighter tried to flee. Rena didn't follow. She pushed off from the 2nd ship, floating back toward the Hunnel runner. Day One brought the ship around and opened the airlock. Rena tumbled inside, frost coating her skin. He slammed the door shut and repressurized. She collapsed to the floor, gasping. Are you crazy? He shouted, running to her with medical supplies. You could have died. But I did not, she coughed, her breath ragged. And now, they cannot follow. Her skin was cut in dozens of places. Exposure to vacuum had done damage he didn't fully understand. He wrapped her in thermal blankets and gave her oxygen. Her wounds slowly began to close on their own, faster than any humans would. Why did you do that? he asked quietly. My oath. I protect you. She managed a weak smile. Also, I have wanted to kill Draxians for 30 years. That felt good. Despite everything, Daewon laughed. It was the laugh of someone who'd just survived something impossible. You're incredible. Terrifying but incredible. You saved me from chains. I save you from death. Now we are even. I don't think that's how it works. No. The oath remains. She closed her eyes, exhausted. Wake me if more come. Daewon sat beside her as she slept, watching the stars pass by. He'd freed one alien woman from slavery. Somehow that simple act had changed everything. He had a warrior's oath, a target on his back, and a friend maybe if he was reading things right. The galaxy had just gotten a lot more complicated, but looking at Rena, seeing the peace on her face as she finally rested, Daewon thought maybe complicated wasn't so bad. New Incheon colony appeared on the scanner like a cluster of lights against the darkness. The human settlement sat on the edge of the Sirius sector, far from Earth but still connected to home. Daewon felt relief wash over him as they approached. This is where you live? Rena asked, standing behind his chair as always. One of the places. I move around a lot, but New Incheon is friendly. We should be safe here. The colony was built on a large asteroid, carved out and pressurized over decades. Docking ports dotted its surface like metal flowers. Daewon guided the Hunnel runner to Port 17 and began landing procedures. Stay close to me, he said. Some people here might not understand. Understand what? That you're free. That you're here by choice. Rena's expression hardened. Let them try to question it. They walked through the colony's main corridor. New Incheon was busy as always, full of traders and colonists going about their business. The walls were covered with advertisements in Korean and English. The smell of cooking food drifted from restaurants. It felt like home, until people started staring. Rena stood out. Silver skin, violet eyes, 7 feet tall. Whispers followed them through the market. Daewon heard fragments of conversation. Is that a Valkyrie? I thought they were all dead. Why does the human have her? A security officer stepped in front of them. He was young, maybe mid-20s, with nervous eyes. Sir, I need to see your documentation. Documentation for what? Daewon asked. For your companion. The officer gestured at Rena. We need to verify her status. Rena's hand moved to her side, where a weapon would normally hang. She had nothing, but the gesture was clear. The officer stepped back. She's with me, Daewon said firmly. She's free. There's no documentation needed. Sir, a Valkyrie warrior is a serious matter. The Draxian Empire has standing bounties. I don't care what the Draxians want. She's under my protection. More security officers appeared. The crowd grew larger. Daewon felt the situation spiraling. Then a calm voice cut through the tension. That's enough. A woman pushed through the crowd. She was in her 40s, with sharp eyes and the confident bearing of someone used to command. Daewon recognized her. Hee-Jin, the colony administrator. Administrator, the security officer said. Protocol requires that we don't harass residents without cause. Hee-Jin looked at Daewon. This is Daewon. He's been trading with us for 3 years. I trust his judgment. She turned to Rena, showing no fear. Welcome to New Incheon. I hope you'll find it peaceful. Rena inclined her head slightly, a gesture of respect. Hee-Jin gestured for them to follow. They walked to the administrative offices away from the crowd. Inside, she closed the door and her expression turned serious. Daewon, what have you done? I freed her from slavers on Keth Station. And you brought her here? Do you know what kind of attention this will bring? She had nowhere else to go. Hee-Jin sighed, rubbing her temples. The Draxian Empire considers Valkyrie survivors to be war criminals. They've been systematically hunting them for decades. If they find out one is here, then we don't tell them, Daewon said. It's not that simple. We have Draxian traders who pass through. We have information networks. Word will spread, Rena spoke for the first time. Then I will leave. I will not bring war to your people. No, Daewon said immediately. You're not leaving. Your oath is to protect me, Rena said. My oath is to protect you. If my presence endangers you, I must go. Nobody's going anywhere. Daewon looked at Hee-Jin. There has to be a way. Hee-Jin was quiet for a moment. Maybe, but it won't be easy. Let me make some calls. In the meantime, keep a low profile. They left the administrative building. Daewon took Rena to his apartment in the residential sector. It was small, One bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a living space barely big enough for furniture. But it was private. "You can take the bedroom," he said. "I'll sleep on the couch." "No, I sleep by the door." "Rena, this is not a discussion." He knew better than to argue. Instead, he made food. Real food, not ration packs. Noodles with vegetables and protein. Simple but warm. Rena ate slowly, savoring each bite. "This is good," she said, "my grandmother's recipe. Well, adapted for whatever ingredients I could find." "Your grandmother, she raised you?" "Yeah, my parents died when I was young. Mining accident. Grandma taught me everything, cooking, trading, how to fix ships, how to stand up for what's right." "She sounds like a warrior." She was, in her own way. They talked into the evening. Rena seemed more relaxed here than on the ship. Maybe it was the solid walls. Maybe it was the lack of immediate danger. Or maybe she was starting to trust that Daewon meant what he said. 3 days passed quietly. Daewon worked on repairing his ship. Rena stayed close, watching everything with those sharp eyes. She helped with repairs, her strength making easy work of tasks that would have taken him hours. On the 4th day, Hye-jin contacted them. Her face on the screen was grim. "We have a problem. A Draxian commander named Tarek has sent an official message to the colony. He knows Rena is here. He's demanding her extradition." Daewon's blood ran cold. How did he find out? Someone talked. Maybe deliberately, maybe not. Either way, Tarek is threatening sanctions if we don't comply. He's calling Rena a war criminal. Says she's responsible for attacks on Draxian military installations. Rena's expression didn't change. "I did attack them. During the war. I killed many Draxians," she paused. "I would do it again." "The Colony Council is meeting tonight," Hye-jin continued. "They're scared. Most want to hand you over to avoid conflict. I'm trying to buy time, but I don't know how long I can hold them off." The screen went dark. Daewon stood there, his mind racing. Rena moved to the window, looking out at the colony. "I will surrender myself," she said quietly. "Absolutely not. Your people cannot afford a war with the Draxian Empire. I will not allow innocent lives to be lost for my sake." Daewon walked over to her. "Listen to me. Humanity didn't come to the stars just to bow to bullies. We fought too hard for our freedom to throw away someone else's. This is not your fight. Yes, it is. The moment I broke your chains, it became my fight." He put his hand on her arm. The silver skin was warm under his palm. "You swore to protect me." "Well, I'm swearing the same thing. No one's taking you anywhere." Rena looked down at him. In her eyes he saw surprise, confusion, and something else, something that looked almost like hope. "Humans are very strange," she said softly. "Yeah, we get that a lot." That night, Daewon couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, watching the lights of the colony. Somewhere out there, people were deciding Rena's fate, deciding whether freedom mattered more than peace. Rena sat beside him in the darkness. She didn't speak, but her presence was solid, reassuring. "Thank you," she finally said. "For what?" "For treating me like a person. For 30 years, I have been either a slave or a monster, a thing to be owned or destroyed. You are the first to see me as something else. You're not a thing. You're Rena, that's enough." She smiled. In the dim light, it transformed her face, made her look younger. Less like a weapon and more like a person who'd been through too much. "If we survive this," she said, "I would like to learn more about your grandmother. About the warrior who taught you to stand up for what is right. Deal. And you can teach me about the Valkyrie, about who they really were, not just the stories." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the colony sleep. Neither of them knew what tomorrow would bring. But for now, in this quiet moment, they had something worth fighting for. They had friendship. They had purpose. And in a galaxy that tried to crush both, that was everything. The colony council chamber was packed with angry voices. Daewon stood at the center, with Rena beside him and Hye-jin at the council table. Every seat was filled with colonists who had opinions about what should happen next. Commander Tarek's message played on the main screen. His face was hard, his voice cold. "The Valkyrie war criminal known as Rena is within your colony. The Draxian Empire demands her immediate surrender. You have 24 hours to comply. If you refuse, we will consider it an act of war. Your colony will be held accountable." The message ended. Silence fell over the chamber. Then everyone started shouting at once, "We can't fight the Draxians. They'll destroy us. This is one alien against our entire colony. We should turn her over." Daewon felt Rena tense beside him. Her hand moved slightly, and he knew she was ready to offer herself up. He caught her wrist gently, shaking his head. "Please, let me speak," he called out. The room quieted slightly. Hyojin nodded for him to continue. "I understand you're scared," Daewon said. "The Draxian Empire is powerful, but so are all the empires that tried to keep humanity down. Earth fought for centuries to stand on equal ground with the other species. We didn't do that by surrendering whenever someone threatened us." "This isn't Earth," someone shouted. "This is a small colony on the edge of nowhere." "Exactly. We're small. We're far from home, which means we need to stand by our principles even more. What makes us human isn't our strength. It's our refusal to abandon those who need help." An older man stood up. Daewon recognized him, Kyung-soo, a former military engineer. "The boy has a point. I didn't leave Earth and travel across the stars just to bow to another tyrant." "That's easy for you to say," a woman argued. "You don't have children here." "My family is at risk," Rena stepped forward. When she spoke, her deep voice commanded attention. "I will not allow innocent lives to be threatened for my sake. I will surrender to Tarek. This matter will be settled." "No," Hyejin said firmly. "If we hand you over, what message does that send? That New Inchin abandons anyone who becomes inconvenient? That we value peace more than justice? What about our families?" the woman demanded. "What about teaching our children the right lesson?" Kyung-soo countered. "Do we show them how to stand up for others? Or how to fold when things get difficult?" The arguments continued for hours. In the end, the council took a vote. It was close, 14-12. New Incheon would not surrender Rena, but the celebration was short-lived. Commander Tarek's response came swiftly. His face appeared on every screen in the colony. "You have made your choice. The Draxian Empire does not tolerate defiance. Our fleet will arrive in 3 days. Surrender the Valkyrie or face the consequences." Panic spread through New Incheon like wildfire. Some colonists began packing, trying to book passage on any ship leaving the system. Others barricaded themselves in their homes. The colony had never faced a military threat before. They weren't ready. Daewon found Hyejin in the security office, studying defensive plans. She looked exhausted. "We have 12 security officers," she said flatly, "and maybe 200 colonists with any kind of combat training. Most of that is hunting experience or old military service. We have civilian defense weapons designed to repel pirates, not fight a military fleet. What about calling for help? I've sent messages to every human colony in range. Most are too far away. Even if they wanted to help, they couldn't reach us in time." Rena appeared in the doorway. "Then we prepare to defend what we can." Hyejin looked at her skeptically. "You're one warrior against a Draxian battle fleet." "No, I am one warrior who knows how Draxians think. How they fight. I can teach your people. In 3 days? It is better than nothing." Hyejin considered this. Finally, she nodded. "All right. Anyone willing to fight, report to the training center. We'll see what we can do." Word spread quickly. To Daewon's surprise, more than 100 colonists showed up. Not all were young or fit. Some were old. Some looked terrified, but they came. Rena stood before them in the training center. Her silver skin gleamed under the lights. Her presence commanded respect. "Draxians believe in overwhelming force," she began. "They rely on superior technology and numbers. This is their weakness. They expect you to fight like they do, head-on in formation. You will not do this." She spent the next 3 days transforming frightened colonists into something resembling fighters. She taught them guerrilla tactics, how to use the colony's narrow corridors and maintenance tunnels, how to set traps, how to make every meter of ground cost the enemy. Kyung-soo worked with a team to convert mining equipment into improvised weapons. Cutting lasers became defensive turrets. Explosive charges meant for mining became mines. The colony's life support systems could be weaponized if needed. A young woman named Yunbi, barely 20 years old, volunteered to pilot the colony's small defense shuttle. She had dreamed of being a pilot her whole life. Now she'd get her chance, though not the way she'd imagined. Daewon worked with anyone who would listen, teaching them the basics of ship operation and emergency procedures. If things went badly, someone needed to get the civilians out. On the 3rd day, the Draxian fleet arrived. 3 warships dropped out of hyperspace. They were sleek and deadly, designed for conquest. Their weapons could level the colony in minutes if they chose. Commander Tarak's face appeared on the main screen again. "This is your final chance. Surrender the Valkyrie and we will leave peacefully. Refuse and we will take her by force." Your colony will be destroyed as an example to others who defy the Empire. Hyejin stood in the command center, surrounded by her hastily assembled defense force. She looked at Rena, then at Daewon, then at all the colonists who had chosen to stay and fight. New Incheon does not negotiate with tyrants, she said clearly. Come and take her if you can. Tarek's expression darkened. So be it. You have chosen death. The screen went black, alarms blared throughout the colony. The Draxian ships began moving into attack position. On the scanners, Daewon could see smaller craft launching, boarding parties. Probably 50 soldiers or more. Here they come, Kyung-soo said grimly. Rena stood at the front of the defense line, a borrowed rifle in her hands. Around her, colonists took their positions. Some were shaking. Others looked determined. All of them looked scared. Daewon found himself standing beside Rena. He'd grabbed a weapon from the armory, an old pulse pistol that had seen better days. He'd never shot anyone before. He hoped he wouldn't have to start now. You should go to the evacuation zone, Rena said quietly. Not a chance. Daewon, you are not a soldier. Neither are most of these people, but we're here anyway. He checked his pistol's charge. You swore to protect me. Well, I'm making the same promise. We protect each other. Rena looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Then we fight together. The first Draxian soldiers breached the outer hull. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the colony. Everyone tensed. Remember the plan? Rena called out. Let them come to us. Use the environment. Make them pay for every step. The cutting stopped. A section of hull exploded inward. Smoke filled the corridor. Through it came the Draxians, tall, armored, carrying weapons that could tear through walls. They expected to face terrified civilians. Instead, they walked into a prepared defense. The first trap triggered. A mining charge exploded, collapsing part of the ceiling. 3 Draxians went down. The others scrambled for cover. Now! Rena shouted. The colonists opened fire. It wasn't pretty or coordinated. Half of them missed their shots, but the volume of fire was enough to force the Draxians back. Rena moved like lightning. She leaped over the barricade, landing among the confused soldiers. Her rifle became a club. She fought with a fury that was terrible and beautiful, each movement precise and deadly. The Draxians broke and retreated. A cheer went up from the colonists. They'd won the first engagement. But Daewon knew it was just the beginning. Through the breach, he could see more soldiers gathering. Dozens of them. And behind them, the warships moved closer, their weapons charging. This is going to be a long fight, Kyung-soo muttered. Daewon looked at Rena, covered in dust and determination. At Yunbi, ready to launch in her shuttle. At all the ordinary people who'd chosen to stand and fight. Yeah, he agreed. But we're not giving up. The Draxians charged again. The real battle for New Incheon had begun. The battle for New Incheon raged for 2 days. The colony corridors became a maze of smoke and violence. Every intersection was contested. Every tunnel was trapped. The Draxians pushed forward with overwhelming numbers, but the colonists refused to break. Rena was everywhere at once. She appeared where the fighting was thickest, rallying defenders, pulling back wounded colonists, teaching by example how to turn fear into fury. Her silver skin was marked with cuts and burns, but she never stopped moving. Daewon fought alongside Kyung-soo, holding a corridor near the residential sector. His hands shook every time he pulled the trigger, but he pulled it anyway. Behind them, families huddled in the evacuation zones, trusting them to hold the line. On the 3rd day of fighting, Yunbi managed something impossible. She'd been flying her small shuttle in hit-and-run attacks, too small for the warships to target effectively. During one pass, she noticed the Draxian communications array on their command ship. It was risky, probably suicidal, but she saw an opening. Her shuttle screamed toward the command ship, weapons blazing. The Draxians tried to swat her away, but she was too fast, too unpredictable. She got close enough to launch her entire payload of mining charges directly at the communications array. The explosion lit up space. The command ship's communications went dark. More importantly, the destruction cut the Draxian jamming signal. For the first time in days, New Incheon could send messages out of the system. Hyejin didn't waste a second. She recorded a desperate plea and broadcast it on every frequency humanity used. Her message was simple but powerful. This is New Incheon Colony. We're under attack by the Draxian Empire for refusing to surrender a freed slave. We're humans, traders, and families fighting against trained soldiers. We're outnumbered 10 to 1. But we're not giving up. Because that's what it means to be human. We don't abandon our own or those who stand with us. If anyone can hear this, we're asking for help. But if no one comes, we'll fight anyway. Because freedom matters more than safety. The message went out across the stars. And the galaxy answered. The first response came from a small mining colony 3 systems away. They couldn't send ships, but they sent supplies, ammunition, medical gear, food. A captain named Jinsu diverted his cargo run to make the delivery, running the Draxian blockade at full speed. Then more messages arrived. From human colonies across the sector, from independent traders, from anyone who'd ever valued freedom over convenience. We're coming, they said. Hold on. Word spread beyond human space. The story of New Incheon reached alien news networks. A small colony standing against an empire. Ordinary people becoming warriors. And at the center of it all, a freed Valkyrie fighting alongside the humans who'd given her freedom. For the scattered Valkyrie survivors hiding across the galaxy, the news was like a lightning bolt. One of their own had found allies, had found people willing to fight beside her. After 30 years of running and hiding, it gave them something they'd thought was lost forever. Hope. An old Valkyrie warrior named Timon heard the news in a refugee camp on the edge of civilized space. He'd been a soldier once before his world fell. Now he worked in recycling plants, keeping his head down, trying to survive. He listened to the broadcasts about New Incheon, about Rena, about the humans who refused to surrender her. He made a decision. He wasn't alone. 3 other Valkyrie in the camp made the same choice. They found the oldest, most battered ship in the spaceport and stole it. None of them expected to survive the journey, but they were going anyway. If one of their own had found something worth fighting for, they would fight too. Back in New Incheon, the defenders were exhausted. They'd held for 3 days, but ammunition was running low. Medical supplies were depleted. People were starting to collapse from fatigue. Day 1 found Rena in what had once been the market sector. She sat against a wall, her rifle across her knees. Blood, her own and others, stained her skin. But her eyes were alert, still watching for threats. "How are you holding up?" he asked, sliding down beside her. "I will fight until I cannot fight. Then I will fight more." "That's not what I asked." She looked at him, really looked with those violet eyes that had seen too much. "I did not expect to survive this. But I did not expect your people to fight like this either. Draxians are trained warriors. Your colonists are farmers and engineers. Yet they do not run. Because running means abandoning you. And we don't do that. Why not? I am one alien. Your colony is hundreds of lives." Daewon smiled tiredly. "That's not how humans think. We don't do math with lives like that. You're here. You're one of us now. That's all that matters." Rena was quiet for a moment. "The Valkyrie used to think we were the strongest species in the galaxy, that our warrior culture made us superior. But we fell because we only knew how to fight alone. Each clan fought separately. Each warrior sought individual glory." She looked at the colonists around them, humans helping each other, sharing supplies, checking on the wounded. "Your people understand something mine never did. True strength comes from standing together." Before Daewon could respond, alarms blared again. But this time they were different. Not attack warnings, ship signatures. Lots of them. They rushed to the command center. Haya Jin stood at the scanner display, her eyes wide. "Ships are dropping out of hyperspace," she said. 20, 30. Still counting. On the screen, vessels appeared one after another. They weren't military ships. They were cargo haulers, mining vessels, passenger transports, and personal shuttles. Every ship was different, but they all had one thing in common. They were human, independent captains who'd heard the call. Colonists from other settlements. Even some Earth military vessels that had been on patrol nearby. They came together like a swarm, surrounding the Draxian warships. The lead ship hailed New Incheon. A gruff-looking captain appeared on screen. "This is Captain Dong-hyun of the cargo vessel Morning Star. We heard you needed some help. Hope we're not too late." More ships hailed in, each one offering support, supplies, weapons, bodies to fight. Commander Tarek's face appeared, his expression shocked. "What is this? These are civilian vessels." "Yeah," Captain Dong-hyun replied. "Civilians who are really tired of empires pushing people around. You wanted a war with humanity? Congratulations. You've got one. The human fleet wasn't organized. They had no unified command, no battle strategy. But they had numbers and they had fury, and they had the stubborn human refusal to back down. The Draxian warships suddenly looked a lot less intimidating. Then 4 more ships appeared. These were different, smaller, older, but moving with clear purpose. They broadcast on Valkyrie frequencies, codes that hadn't been used in decades. Rena stood frozen, staring at the screen. Those are my people. The lead Valkyrie ship hailed New Incheon. An old warrior's face appeared, scarred, gray-haired, but with eyes that burned with the same fire as Rena's. This is Tai Min, formerly of the Shield Brothers of Valkros Prime. We heard one of our own was fighting. We come to stand with her, and with the humans who gave her reason to fight. Rena's hand went to her chest over her heart. It was a Valkyrie gesture of deep respect. Tears ran down her silver face. They came, she whispered. They heard and they came. Daewon put his hand on her shoulder. You're not alone anymore. None of us are. On the command ship, Commander Tarek stared at the fleet surrounding him. Dozens of human vessels, 4 Valkyrie warriors who'd emerged from hiding, and a colony that absolutely refused to surrender. He'd expected an easy victory, a simple show of force. Instead, he'd sparked something bigger. He'd reminded humanity why they'd fought so hard to reach the stars. And he'd given the scattered Valkyrie a reason to hope again. His tactical officer spoke nervously. Sir, our orders were to recover the Valkyrie and make an example of the colony. But this situation has escalated. If we attack now, we'll be starting a war with all of human space. Tarek knew his officer was right. The Draxian Empire was powerful, but they had enemies everywhere. A war with humanity, a species that never quit, that held grudges forever, that inspired others to stand against tyranny, was not something his superiors wanted. He made his decision. Open a channel to the colony, he ordered. Hyejin's face appeared on his screen. Behind her, Daewon and Rena stood together, exhausted, bloodied, unbroken. New Incheon colony. Tarek said carefully, I propose a solution. Single combat. Ancient Draxian tradition. One of your warriors against me. If I win, you surrender the Valkyrie. If I lose, my fleet withdraws and the Empire drops all claims. It was a gamble, but it was better than the alternative. Rena stepped forward before anyone could speak. I accept your challenge, Tarek. When and where? Tarek smiled coldly. Tomorrow. On neutral ground. Prepare yourself, Valkyrie. You may have survived slavery, but you won't survive me. The screen went dark. The colony erupted in argument. Some thought it was a trap. Others saw it as their best chance. But Rena was already walking toward the training center. I need to prepare, she said simply. Daewon followed her. Whatever happened tomorrow, he'd be there. They'd started this journey together. They'd finish it the same way. The neutral ground was a small asteroid between New Incheon and the Draxian fleet. Both sides had agreed to the terms. No interference. No weapons beyond what the fighters carried. One combat, winner takes all. The human fleet and the Draxian warships watched from a distance. Hundreds of eyes focused on the small platform built on the asteroid's surface. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Daewon stood with Rena in the equipment room of the transport shuttle. They had an hour before the duel. Rena sat quietly, checking her borrowed armor piece by piece. It wasn't Valkyrie armor. That technology was lost. But Kyung-Soo had modified human combat gear to fit her frame. You don't have to do this, Daewon said. Yes, I do. Tarek is a trained Draxian commander. He's been fighting his whole life. So have I. Rena adjusted a strap on her arm guard. The difference is I know what I am fighting for. Tarek fights for glory and empire. I fight for something more. What's that? She looked up at him. For the people who saw me as more than a slave or a weapon. For the colony that refused to give up. For you, Daewon, you showed me that freedom is not just the absence of chains. It is having something worth protecting. Daewon pulled something from his pocket. A combat knife, simple but well made. He'd spent the night engraving words into the blade in both Korean and Valkyrie script. Never alone, the engraving read. I don't know if you need this, he said, but I wanted you to have it. A reminder that whatever happens out there, you're not fighting by yourself. Rena took the knife carefully. Her fingers traced the engraving. When she looked at him, her eyes were bright with emotion. Thank you, she said quietly. For everything. for freeing me, for standing beside me, for showing me that my people's way was not the only way. Hey, don't talk like this is goodbye. You're going to win, she smiled. I will try my hardest. The other Valkyrie warriors came to see her before the duel. Taemin and his 3 companions stood in the doorway, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Then Taemin placed his fist over his heart in the traditional Valkyrie salute. Sister, he said, you have honored our people. Whatever happens today, know that you have given us hope. You have shown us that our culture can survive by adapting, not by clinging to the past. I am just one warrior, Rena said. No, you are the first of something new. Valkyrie who stand with others, who fight not for glory but for justice. He stepped forward and handed her a small pendant. It was old, scratched, but unmistakably Valkyrie, a shield symbol. This belonged to my sister. She died during the fall. I think she would want you to have it. Rena accepted the pendant with reverence. She attached it to her armor, over her heart. The time came. They boarded the shuttle and flew to the asteroid. The platform was simple, a flat surface with markings for the combat zone. No tricks, no advantages, just 2 warriors and their skills. Commander Tarek was already there. He stood nearly 8 feet tall in his full combat armor. The Draxian technology was far more advanced than anything the humans had. Energy shields, enhanced strength, weapons built into the armor itself. He looked like a living tank. Rena stepped onto the platform wearing modified human armor and carrying the knife Daewon had given her. She looked small in comparison, but she didn't look afraid. An automated voice announced the rules. No outside interference. Fight until one opponent surrenders or is unable to continue. The victor's terms would be honored by both sides. Tarek activated his weapon systems. Energy blades extended from his forearms. His shields hummed to life. You should have stayed in chains, Valkyrie. At least then you would have lived. Life without freedom is not living, Rena replied. It is just a slow death, the signal sounded. The duel began. Tarek charged immediately, using his armor's enhanced speed. He was fast, faster than something that size should be. His blade swung toward Rena's head. She dropped and rolled, the blade passing over her. Came up slashing with the knife. It scraped across Tarek's shields, doing no damage. Is that all? Tarek laughed. You cannot even touch me. He pressed the attack. His blades came from multiple angles, forcing Rena to defend constantly. She was faster than him, more agile, but his shields absorbed every strike she landed. Watching from the shuttle, Daewon felt sick. He's too strong. The shields are too much. But Kyungsoo studied the fight carefully. She's not trying to win yet. She's learning. Watch, he was right. Rena wasn't just defending randomly. She was testing. Every time Tarek struck, she studied how he moved, how the shields flickered, how his armor joints articulated. She was fighting like a human, analyzing, adapting. Tarek grew frustrated. He unleashed a combination of strikes meant to overwhelm her. Rena gave ground, leading him across the platform. She was breathing hard now, sweat mixing with the blood from small cuts. Then she did something unexpected. She dropped her knife. Tarek laughed. Giving up already? No. Adapting. She grabbed a piece of loose metal from the platform, debris from construction, threw it at Tarek's head. He blocked it easily, shields flaring. While he was distracted, Rena dove low. Not at his body. At the platform beneath his feet. She'd noticed something during her study. The platform had maintenance hatches. Access panels. She ripped one open, exposing the power cables underneath. Tarek realized what she was doing and tried to move, but Rena grabbed the cables and yanked them free. Sparks exploded. The electricity coursed through the conductive platform, right into Tarek's armor. His shields overloaded. His system sparked and died. The advanced Draxian technology betrayed him, conducting the electricity through his own suit. Tarek collapsed. Smoke rising from his armor, Rena stood over him, picked up her knife and placed it against his throat. Yield. Tarek stared up at her, shocked. How my armor? My shields. Your armor made you strong, but it also made you predictable. You relied on it. Forgot how to fight without it. She pressed the knife slightly. I said yield. Everyone expected her to kill him. In traditional Draxian combat, the loser died. That was the way. But Rena stepped back, lowered her knife. I will not kill you, she said. Not because you deserve mercy, but because I am not Draxian. I am Valkyrie, and I have learned from humans. They taught me that strength is not about dominating others. It is about protecting what matters. Tarek slowly sat up, his armor sparking and dead. You spare me, why? Because killing you changes nothing. But letting you live, you will return to your empire. You will tell them what happened here. How a small colony of humans stood against your fleet. How a freed slave defeated your champion. How mercy can be stronger than cruelty. She turned her back on him and walked toward the shuttle. The Draxian Empire will remember this day. Remember that there are those who will stand against tyranny, who will fight for freedom, and who will never surrender. The automated voice announced, "Victory, Rena of Valkyrie. Terms enforced, Draxian fleet will withdraw. All claims on the Valkyrie subject are void." The human fleet erupted in celebration. Ships flashed their lights. Horns blared. Day One ran to meet Rena as she stepped off the shuttle, catching her as her legs finally gave out. "You did it," he said, holding her up. "You won." "We won," she corrected. She looked at all the human ships, at the Valkyrie vessels, at the colony in the distance. All of us together. Commander Tarek stood on the platform watching the celebration. His pride was wounded. His armor was destroyed. But as he watched the unity between humans and Valkyrie, he understood something. This wasn't just about one colony or one warrior. This was about something bigger. The galaxy was changing. The old empires that ruled through fear and strength were facing something new. Species working together, standing for each other, refusing to bow. He activated his emergency beacon. The Draxian fleet moved to retrieve him. As they did, he sent a message to Rena on a private channel. "You fight like nothing I have encountered before," he said. "Not like a Valkyrie, not like a Draxian, like something new. The galaxy will remember this day, Valkyrie, and it will remember you." The Draxian fleet jumped to hyperspace, their engines flaring as they fled. The blockade was broken. New Incheon was free. In the colony's main hall, they held a celebration that night. Humans and Valkyrie together. Music played. People laughed and cried and told stories of the battle. Children who had hidden in fear now ran through the halls, celebrating. Rena sat with Day One on a balcony overlooking the celebration. She still wore the pendant Taimin had given her. The knife with "Never Alone" engraved on it hung at her side. "What will you do now?" Day One asked. "Your oath is fulfilled. You protected me. The debt is paid, is it?" Rena looked at him. "You freed me from chains. I protected you in battle. But the oath was never just about debt. It was about finding purpose, and have you found it?" She smiled. "Yes, my purpose is not to restore what was lost. The Valkyrie Empire is gone, but perhaps something better can take its place. A new way. Valkyrie who stand with others, who fight not for conquest but for justice. Sounds like a good purpose to me. And you? What is your purpose now?" Day One thought about it. "I used to think it was just freedom. Flying around, trading, going wherever I wanted. But that was just running. Never building anything." He looked at the celebration below. "Maybe my purpose is helping others find their freedom. Like I helped you." Rena placed her hand over his. Her silver skin was warm. "Then perhaps we should continue together, partners. Not master and servant, not debtor and debt holder, just friends whose to 3 weeks after the battle, New Incheon was still rebuilding. The damaged sections of the colony were being repaired. Memorials were built for the 37 colonists who had died defending their home. The names were carved in stone, human and Valkyrie standing guard over them together. The story of the siege spread across the galaxy like wildfire. News networks ran endless coverage. The small colony that stood against an empire. The Valkyrie warrior who found allies among humans. The duel that changed everything. Other species took notice. Minor civilizations that had suffered under Draxian expansion saw hope. If humans would stand with a freed slave against an empire, maybe the galaxy could be different. Maybe the powerful didn't always win. Scattered Valkyrie survivors began emerging from hiding. Not many, their numbers were still desperately small, but enough. They gathered at New Incheon, drawn by the story of Rena and the humans who fought beside her. Taimin and his 3 companions decided to stay. They helped with repairs, taught combat techniques, and slowly began to believe that their people might have a future after all. Day One stood in the docking bay, watching workers fix the Hanul runner. The ship had taken damage during the battle, but Kyung-Soo's crew was making it better than before. Stronger engines, better shields, upgraded weapon systems, "It's almost ready," a voice said behind him. He turned to find Rena approaching. She wore simple clothes now, not armor, but she still moved like a warrior, alert and aware. The knife he'd given her hung at her belt. The Valkyrie pendant gleamed at her throat. Ready for what? He asked. For whatever comes next. They talked about this over the past weeks. About what they would do now that the fighting was over. Stay at New Incheon? Return to trading? Try to rebuild their old lives? But both of them knew their old lives were gone. They'd changed too much, seen too much, fought for something that mattered. I've been thinking, Daewon said, about what you said, about helping others find freedom. And there are probably other people out there like you were, enslaved, trapped, waiting for someone to break their chains. He looked at his ship. The Hanul runner could be more than a cargo hauler. It could be something that makes a difference. Rina's eyes brightened. You want to free others? I want to try. I can't save everyone. Can't fight every empire, but maybe we can help a few people. Give them the same chance I gave you. It will be dangerous. Probably. We will make powerful enemies. Definitely. We may die. Yeah, but we'll die doing something worthwhile. He smiled. Besides, I'll have the most dangerous bodyguard in the galaxy. Rina laughed. It was a sound Daewon had heard more often lately. Partner, she corrected. Not bodyguard. Partners stand together, equal. Partners, then. Footsteps echoed through the bay. Yunbi approached, her young face both excited and nervous. I heard you're planning something. Taking the Hanul runner on missions? Maybe, Daewon said carefully. Why? I want to come. I'm a good pilot. You saw what I did during the battle. And she hesitated. I thought flying would be about seeing the galaxy, having adventures. But the siege showed me something. Flying can be about more than that. It can be about helping people. Daewon exchanged a glance with Rina. It's going to be dangerous work. I know, but I'm tired of safe. Safe means looking away when bad things happen. Safe means letting people suffer because it's not our problem. Her jaw set stubbornly. I want to be part of something that matters. She is brave, Rina observed. Bravery is always useful. Kyung-soo arrived next, wiping grease from his hands. I hear you're turning that old cargo ship into some kind of rescue vessel. Maybe, Daewon repeated. You'll need an engineer. Someone who can keep those upgraded systems running. Someone who knows how to modify equipment on the fly. He grinned. I'm retired military. Fought in 3 border wars before I came to New Incheon. I joined the colony to find peace. But peace is boring, and you kids need someone to keep you alive. One by one, others came forward. A medic named Ji-won who'd kept people alive during the siege. A former soldier named Sang-min, who couldn't sit still knowing others were suffering. Even Taemin approached, offering the Valkyries assistance. We are few, the old warrior said. But we remember what it means to fight for justice. If you are freeing slaves and standing against tyrants, the Valkyrie will stand with you. By the end of the day, Daewon had a crew. Not a large one, just 8 people total. But they were dedicated, skilled, ready to fight for something bigger than themselves. Hai-jin called them to her office that evening. She looked tired but satisfied. The colony was recovering. The crisis had passed, but she still had the weight of leadership on her shoulders. I heard about your plan, she said. Taking the Hanul runner and playing hero across the galaxy. We're not heroes, Daewon said. We're just people trying to help. That's what makes you heroes. She pulled out a data pad. The Colony Council met this morning. We want to support what you're doing. Not officially. We can't risk bringing more trouble to New Incheon, but quietly. Supplies, information, a safe place to return when you need it. She handed him the pad. On it was a list of resources, ammunition, medical supplies, repair equipment, everything a small ship would need for dangerous work. We also have this. She pulled out a worn book. Reports from across the sector. Places where slavery still exists. Where people are suffering. It's not much, but it's a start. Daewon took the book carefully. Inside were names, locations, and situations. Each one represented people trapped like Rina had been, people waiting for help. Thank you, he said quietly. Don't thank me. Just come back alive, Hyejin smiled, and tell good stories. The galaxy needs more stories like yours. Stories about people standing together, choosing to help instead of looking away. The night before they left, Daewon and Rina stood on the same balcony where they'd talked after the duel. The colony lights spread before them, warm and alive. A home they were choosing to leave. Are you afraid? Rena asked, terrified. We're taking a cargo ship against people who traffic in slaves and suffering. We'll be outnumbered and outgunned most of the time. Then why do it? Day-One thought about his grandmother, about the stories she'd told him, about humanity's long fight for dignity and freedom, about never looking away when someone needed help. Because you asked me once why I freed you. The real answer is simple. Because I could. Because I was there and I had the power to make a difference, even a small one. And I think that's enough reason. To risk everything? To try, maybe we fail. Maybe we only help a few people. But those few people deserve the chance we gave you. He looked at her. You were one person in chains. Look what you became. Imagine if we could give that chance to others. Rena nodded slowly. The Valkyrie used to say that a warrior's worth is measured in victories. In enemies defeated, but I have learned something from you humans. A warrior's worth is measured in lives protected, in people given hope. Is that in the warrior's code? No, it is in a new code. One we will write together. The next morning, the Hanul runner launched from New Incheon. The crew stood at their stations ready for whatever came next. Yunbi piloted them away from the colony, her hands steady on the controls. Kyung-soo monitored the engine systems, making small adjustments. Ji-won organized the medical bay. Sang-min checked weapons. Tae-min and the other Valkyrie prepared their equipment. Dae-won sat in the captain's chair, a title he still wasn't comfortable with, looking at the reports Hye-jin had given them. So many names, so many places where people suffered. Where to start? Rena stood beside him as always. Her hand rested on the back of his chair, a gesture that had become familiar. Comfortable. There, she said, pointing to one entry. The outer markets of Helion Station, known for trading indentured workers, mostly species from conquered worlds. Like the Valkyrie were, Dae-won said quietly. Yes, we start there. He input the coordinates. The ship's navigation system calculated the jump. 3 days travel at maximum speed. All hands prepare for hyperspace, Yunbi announced. The stars stretched and blurred. The Hanul runner leaped forward into the unknown. In the cargo hold, Tae-min sat with the younger Valkyrie warriors. They were polishing their weapons, preparing mentally for what was to come. One of them, a female warrior named Sun-hee, looked up at the old soldier. Do you think we can make a difference? She asked. There are so few of us. The galaxy is so large, Tae-min smiled. I used to think that numbers were everything. That strength came from armies and fleets. But I watched a small colony stand against an empire. I watched humans fight not because they could win, but because it was right. He gestured around the ship. We are few, but we stand with others now. And that makes us stronger than any army. In the cockpit, Dae-won watched the hyperspace tunnel flow past. His mind drifted to the first time he'd seen Rena, standing in chains, defiant even in captivity. He'd spent almost everything he had to free her. At the time, it seemed like a foolish decision. Impulsive, expensive. Now he understood it was the most important decision he'd ever made, because it wasn't just about freeing one person. It was about choosing what kind of person he wanted to be, what kind of galaxy he wanted to live in. A galaxy where people looked away was a galaxy of fear and suffering.